and report after having had under consideration House Bill 388 that I recommend that the same do pass.
Representative Saffman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for the, I guess, the basketball becoming my way. Members of the body, I bring you House Bill 388, which would protect all Montanans by building out our healthcare infrastructure to prepare us for future emergencies, whether it's a pandemic, a flood on the High Line, an earthquake, or an urban fire, by creating a rotating stockpile of needed medical supplies so that we don't get caught unprepared again. When I introduced House Resolution 1, the resolution appreciating our healthcare workers, I received hundreds of emails and calls thanking me for acknowledging what these folks had been through this past year. And perhaps the most common theme in these was the challenges and hardships of having to work without adequate PPE. My daughter, for example, a surgeon, was forced to perform surgeries without adequate PPE or having to use PPE that was on multiple times that was meant for one use. To give you an idea of the scope of the problem, just looking at one piece of PPE, N95 masks, in 2019, Montana used 25 million of them. But in the 12 months of the pandemic, we used 3.5 billion, that's with a B, 140 times the normal. They're used not only by hospitals, but in other Montana facilities, especially nursing homes. So during the pandemic, people like my wife and her friends sewed and donated cloth masks as quickly as they could, and several Montana manufacturers stepped up to the plate. But none of this came close to the need. We couldn't acquire more, partly because of a collapse in the supply chain, and partly because every time we located some, even at exorbitant prices, larger states or the feds came along and bought it out from under us. So after consulting with the Montana Hospital Association, many Montana medical groups, DPHHS and DES, and seeing what many other states like Iowa, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Utah were doing, it became clear that the best practices is to create the infrastructure of a rotating stockpile. The basic idea is that the state purchases a supply. 90 days of PPE is the initial goal. And each year, some of it is sold off and replaced so that it never expires. Say a particular item has a shelf life of 10 years. Each year, you sell off 10% and replace it with new product, so the stockpile is always current. And now is the ideal time to do this because it can be done with federal money and prices are very low. Once the initial infrastructure stockpile is established, the bill allows for medicines and other supplies to be part of that rotating stockpile according to need and funding. So what this bill does is create a preparedness work group within DES, which is a subgroup of DES's existing Emergency Response Commission. The work group consults with various stakeholders and coordinates with existing programs to plan for potential healthcare emergencies. The group is responsible for developing and maintaining this rotating stockpile. It also identifies price points at which supplies can be purchased and when unused supplies should be sold. Right now, for example, we're beginning to see a glut of PPE coming out on the market, and it's selling for low prices. The infrastructure for all of this is already in place within DES, DPHHS, and the Hospital Preparedness Program, which is run by the Montana Hospital Association. The testimony at the hearing said that they have the existing capability to store, track, move, sell, rotate, and otherwise manage all of this. So this bill provides for the initial funding, which would come from either CARES Act money or in the discretion of appropriations. They can use money from the American Rescue Plan. It's an important part of our obligation to create the healthcare infrastructure that we need to keep Montanans safe during a future emergency. The hearing saw strong support from all the stakeholders, broad bipartisan support, and no opponents. I urge it to pass. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there discussion? Representative McCamey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really important. As kind of an original prepper, in my own home, I have, for example, a stockpile, if you will, of various types of items, including TP, including food that is more than just MREs. And I also have things that you would have a difficult time finding if you were not able to, for example, get to town. I live 35 miles from Great Falls. I live 20 miles from Cascade. And speaking to the bill here, if I'm not prepared with essentials at my home, and I am, for example, snowed in for 4 days, which I have been before, or if a bridge washes out, or part of a bridge washes out, the approach washes out, I am stuck. I have to rely on what I have. Now, we kind of had a situation this time where we were stuck. We were caught flat-footed. We were not prepared. In fact, we were so ill-prepared that it was stunning. I was surprised by how ill-prepared we were. But I think that we have the opportunity to redo that. And it may be through money that is coming because of the COVID monies, the CARES monies. But regardless, we need to prepare better, because it's not going to be something so simple as a flu-like virus next time, perhaps. We don't know. But regardless of what it is, we need to be prepared. And I highly encourage you to vote for this bill, because it's simply a matter of common sense. If we do not do this, we will once again have the potential of being caught flat-footed. I, for one, like to be prepared. Call me a Boy Scout. I will happily take that title. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Hinkle, Caleb Hinkle.